Unit 4 Deaf Culture Review. Please follow along with this PowerPoint and answer the questions on your worksheet provided. Typically, conversations with a deaf person include certain elements. Watch this clip and write down what the conversation includes. Not what exactly is signed, but what types of questions would you have to answer if you were having a conversation with a deaf person. And also look for who is deaf in my family. Approximately 10% of deaf people have deaf children, which means 90% of deaf parents have hearing children. A hearing child of deaf adult is known by the finger-spelled word CODA, C-O-D-A, and stands for Child of Deaf Adults. Children of deaf adults are a huge part, an important part of the deaf community and culture. They often have the best of both worlds, being able to sign, being hearing, and being involved in the deaf community. It's part of their unique background. There are 3 reasons why you should use shoulder shifting. They are to compare, contrast, or separate information. Each one is used for a different reason. So comparing is when you're talking about what one or more person says or done. A sign that you might use to compare would be same. To contrast, it's talking about multiple topics or pieces of information in the same sentence, and the sign you would typically use would be but. To separate ideas would be more than one concept in the same sentence. Time words like morning, afternoon, night, or different groups of people like group A and group B will work on 2 different things, or would be separating, and that's when you would use shoulder shifting. Compound signs are when 2 separate signs combine together to make an additional meaning. Combining signs for father and mother creates parents. Sun and sunshine would be sunny. Which of these 4 signs is a compound sign? ASL has not always been learned within deaf households. That is why a lot of deaf people will often ask students, why are you interested in learning sign language? This question is often asked because a lot of parents and siblings have unfortunately never learned sign language. Deaf people are coming from hearing families who don't know ASL, and they typically rely on a few signs and improvised gestures called home signs to communicate with the people that they love. Because of this background, where most hearing people don't know and didn't learn sign language, a question is often asked, why do you? They want to know your background, whether you have a deaf friend or relative, and what your motivation is to learn sign language. Socializing or for fun. Watch me sign these 3 signs for the age spot and write down for 1, 2, and 3 if I signed that age correctly or incorrectly. As you were watching, I hoped you looked for the hand position. Remember that numbers 1 through 5 should not face inward, but they should be facing outward, away from the body. The age spot is near your chin, and so you slide the number 2 out from your chin to represent the age. Listing and ordering can be used for talking about more than one element. It's often used when there's several details about one or more people. The list goes on your non-dominant hand, and new information about each item is signed by your dominant hand. Watch me sign about my family and label the name, age, and relationship of each person. When you watched Chris sign, what word do you think she was signing when she put her mouth up, her hand over her mouth and her hand over her ear? Why do you think that sign has changed over time? Deaf people often have really close friendships with each other and often know other people who each other might know. They have long-lasting friendships because sometimes some of the students attend schools for the deaf. They might continue on through those schools through college. They can stay in contact with each other through email, texting, video, phone, and become participating in activities in the deaf community events, and deep bonds and friendships are formed. A similarity in my life might be the gymnastics community. When I go to coaching events, I often run into other people I know. When I go to an event, I might run into somebody who's a judge who I previously did gymnastics with. Another time, the judge might be somebody who was my coach when I was younger. We might have been on the same team at different years, but knew of each other's names or knew of a sibling. Oftentimes, those little connections that we make with other people will draw friendship, or you'll have a common interest in something to talk about. So I want you to think of what's one example in the community that you live in that might have similarities and how the community might stay connected. Watch the 2 sentences that I signed using the word since, and write down if I use the word since correctly in the first sentence and whether I use the word since correctly in the second sentence. As you watched him sign, he did one example of what to do while he was fingerspelling and made a mistake. He signed the word oops. If you're also signing something and you make a mistake, you can sign the word wave no, and wave no will also represent that you've made a mistake. The most common corrections are the 2 oops and wave no. Use either sign and signal. You don't need to overemphasize or make exaggerated facial expressions. Using the word shows that you're thinking, and that you just need a second to continue the conversation. A pronoun can replace a noun or another pronoun. You might use pronouns like he, which, none, and you to make the sentence less cumbersome. In American Sign Language, there's a few pronouns that you might use, like pointing, the three of us, two of them. Circle all the pronouns that are on your worksheet.
Do you understand what pronouns are? A pronoun is a person or group of people. ASL has many pronouns. For example, you, me, us, they. ASL has many visual pronouns as well. For instance, the two of us three, the four of us. Do you understand this sign? It means 3 people are walking. Right. Good. Now, practice.